Before I begin with this video, I need to make a public acknowledgement. This is a bigger YouTuber than I am. This is how many subscribers he has. And this is how many subscribers I have. Just like me, this bigger YouTuber has also reviewed Stargirl with a noticeably more negative attitude that I believe he got from reviewing this much worse show before. Because of this attitude, I have gone to defend Stargirl from his harsh treatment while also trying to fish viewers from his videos' comment sections. Not very honorable, but in a poor versus rich situation where subscribers are the currency or stock worth of currency, I don't see any other way to get people to watch my videos when I am 1,000 times smaller YouTuber than him. Moreover, the fact that I have used just as much or harsher way to disagree with his views on the show in criticizing it is what weighs more here. I acknowledge that it has gone too far in some points, and there are responses that I have made that come across as insults. The mature thing to do here is to admit and acknowledge what has been done and do better in the future. I am not going to apologize for these things, however, because one, doing that won't erase what has been done, and two, apologizing is a sign of weakness. While it is healthy to have weaknesses, I refuse to show any, even when I feel like I owe something to someone I have unjustly wronged. Okay, and now let's go with the episode. In the opening of the episode, we are reintroduced to Sportsmaster and Tigris' civilian life as proud parents cheering for their daughter Artemis at the American football training match, and later murdering the team's coach for putting their daughter on the bench. After the opening logo, we see Courtney try to sneak back into her room after the events of the previous episode, I think, and getting caught by Pat. As we saw in the last episode, Pat has found the JSA stuff Courtney borrowed from the JSA Brownstone, and confronting her, manages to coerce his stepdaughter to confess giving Wildcat suit to Yolanda and Dr. Midnight's goggles to Beth, as well as sharing the knowledge of Rick being Our Man's son. While they share the information, Pat shows his parental authority by scolding Courtney for what she has done by putting her friends in danger and stealing the JSA stuff, also using the most powerful parental word of discipline, telling Courtney he is disappointed in her for doing all of this behind his back. Pat then confiscates the JSA stuff from Courtney and takes them downstairs with his own memorabilia, while also looking into Our Man's notes. Icicle wakes up in the middle of the night to a text message from Principal Bowen, which reports to him about Sportsmaster and Tigris' actions at the beginning of the episode. He arrives to confront them in the middle of disposing the football team coach's body, scolds them for their actions, and tells them to get their old supervillain costumes out of the storage as they will be needing them soon. Over to the next day. Pat confronts Rick about Uncle Matt's pickup truck he sent to his garage in the previous episode and tells him he knew the young man's father. Rick is not sorry for totaling his uncle's pickup truck and asks Pat why he has not gone after his parents' killers. Pat shares Our Man's notebook with Rick, which apparently has historical inconsistencies and unrecognizable chemical equations. My money is on it being about Miracolo. And just like his father's hourglass, Rick leaves the garage with the notebook, calling it his inheritance, before ranting to Pat like Donald Duck about how useless he has been doing nothing. At school, Yolanda shares her research about her predecessor Ted Grant, the original Wildcat, to Courtney, and tells her she is inspired by his story as a heavyweight boxing champion whose reputation was ruined by contrasting it to her own disgraced situation. This shows, to me at least, that Yolanda does indeed look up to Ted Grant as an inspiration, and that being the new Wildcat is not just her taking over for him, but also her new drive to get back up as worthy as Grant was. On Beth's end, she is using the artificial intelligence of Charles McNider in Dr. Midnight's goggles and considers the AI her new best friend. And then Beth goes and breaks her own advice from the last episode by greeting Courtney with her code name. I know I managed to excuse Courtney and Yolanda talking in the crowded hallway in the last episode, but not being overheard by inactive listeners, but this is happening in the library where everyone can hear it when someone opens their mouth. While this is happening, Courtney is visibly being waited upon by Pat's words to her about what she has done. While Yolanda and Beth are thankful for Courtney having given them Wildcat suit and Dr. Midnight's goggles, Pat telling Courtney that they could end up dead like Joey Zarek and ordering her to take what she gave away from them is something that she struggles to begin. This comes obvious in the cafeteria scene where she tries to start the conversation to the positively welcoming Yolanda and Beth, only to drive them out of the table when she brings up that Pat caught her stealing the JSA stuff she gave them and telling her to get them back. Between this, we see Sportsmaster and Tigress observe as Principal Bowen introduces the new football team coach to the school's team as the gambler joins to meet them and talk about their villainous plans. The scene also establishes that the two have a working professional relationship with him that does not extend to any personal levels, as they do not see him as their friend. At the end of the school day, Rick joins Yolanda and Beth being indifferent to Courtney for asking them to give back their JSA stuff. This is a scene that builds up Courtney as a character, so I'll go into it more later. But it leads to Beth reading Our Man's notebook with Dr. Midnight's goggles and them getting an alert about what the gambler is doing and where. Being informed about the gambler being an Injustice Society member and being just one guy working on tech support, Rick, Yolanda, and Beth overrule Courtney into going after the villain. A scene later in the episode suggests that they stop by Courtney's house to get Rick and Beth their superhero costumes from where Pat has put them. Before the end of the episode action scene, we get to see Sportsmaster and Tigress making excuses to their daughter about their absence for the night, as well as Icicle with his son, celebrating the anniversary of his wife's birthday, during which we see Icicle Jr. having similar powers as his father. Now at the ending, we see the Infinity Inc. inspired team going after the gambler in the telecommunications company he's hacking into. As it was foreshadowed earlier in the episode, they get jumped on by Sportsmaster and Tigress in their supervillain costumes. As a long established pair, they pawn the unorganized noobs. I'm not going to describe the entire action sequence, but to highlight the important parts, our man gets his ass handed to him by Sportsmaster, showing that raw strength is not enough against strategy and expertise. Wildcat just barely managing against Tigress, partly thanks to the suit's inbuilt powers, and only staying alive due to Dr. Midnight using a fire extinguisher to distract Tigress and pull Wildcat out. Stargirl getting 2-on-1 overpowered against both of them, and almost killed with a magnetic hockey puck bomb, which forces the cosmic staff to separate itself from her, blow up in the air, and fall down to her temporarily out of order. The gambler getting what he needed while the noobs who came to stop him are distracted outside. Pat arriving in his Stripe robot suit to provide backup to the Infinity Inc., while also intimidating Sportsmaster and Tigress to retreat. In the final two scenes of the episode, Rick, Yolanda, and Beth admire Pat's robot suit at his garage, with Rick changing his mind about Pat after the rant he gave him earlier in the episode. Courtney unloads her frustration about the three not listening to her on Pat, ultimately realizing that they have been acting like she has been on Pat since the first episode. Having reached a new understanding, the stepfather and the stepdaughter agree to let Rick, Yolanda, and Beth keep their legacy equipment and from here on work together as they should have done from the beginning. The episode ends to the Injustice Society meeting at their headquarters and talking about their plans needing Brainwave back in action to work. Principal Bowen is confirmed to be the original Fiddler's former spouse by Tigress, and that her private concert in Brainwave's hospital room was an attempt to wake him up. Icicle closes this episode with the order to learn who the new legacy characters in the JSA costumes are. There is a small B plot in the episode in developing Barbara and Mike's familiar relationship, where the stepmother supports her stepson in a school science fair, where Mike has built a volcano out of the excess candy from the previous Halloween episode. It's not much, but it gives the two something to do and develop their characters so they don't seem like cardboard cutouts in the background of Courtney and Pat's story. Also, the ending of this plotline ties into the main plot by telling Pat where Courtney is so he can arrive to save her and her friends in the robot costume. This episode was written by Taylor Strides, and when it comes to her previous writing credit, I'm only distantly aware of it. I did used to watch NCIS up to the point where Michael Weatherly and Cote de Pablo's characters left the series, but I never bothered to watch the spin off set in Los Angeles and New Orleans. There is no lore dump which I asked for in the previous episode, but as this is now the midway point of the season, it seems that this milestone is acknowledged in the character development. As I brought up in the plot summary, Pat confronting Courtney over her actions and using the I'm disappointed in you treatment seems to have, in my opinion, pushed Courtney into looking into what she is doing and her actions' consequences. Rick, Yolanda, and Beth are also used creatively in mirroring Courtney's behavior when told to give the JSA stuff back, which leads to her better understanding and defending Pat's actions in telling her no on running into danger blindly. A lesson that she should have learned from Joey Zarek's death in episode 3, but should probably understand by now, I hope. In the previous video, I hypothesized that Jeff Johns has given guidelines to the show's writing team to write the story he wants as he would, and that the entire story for the season had been written from beginning to end before they started filmings. Three examples I have picked up so far include slut shaming Shiv gave to Yolanda in episode 3 over dating Brainwave Jr., which was followed up in the episode 4's opening and her not wanting to go into Shiv's party to find Rick because Brainwave Jr. was there in episode 5. Principal Bowen's private violin concert to Comatose Brainwave, which is explained in this episode as one of many attempts to wake him up, and last episode's confirmation that she is the new fiddler in the Injustice Society, with her former husband being the original. There might be more foreshadowing in the previous episode that pay off in the next ones, but now it's still too early to bring up. Next week's episode is the first half of a two-parter focused on Shiv, and the fact that it's a two-parter, I speculate it being set up on her becoming the villain character she is in Stars and Stripes comic book series, as well as the adaptation of her arc from that comic. Okay, let's get this out of the way. This character, Sportsmasters and Tigress's daughter Artemis, is supposed to be this character from Young Justice, as well as based on the original comic book character and this combination of both in New 52's Teen Titans Annual number 1. We don't yet know which of those three paths she is going to go in the show. And with that out of the way, I loved the way how Sportsmaster and Tigress were portrayed in this episode and in the show overall. It probably has something to do with the fact that there are not many perfectly portrayed married couples on TV. The only ones I can think of are Peter and Elizabeth Burke from White Collar. Another reason might be because in their previous portrayal in Young Justice, Sportsmaster was portrayed as a verbally abusive father, and Tigress was a retired former villain in a wheelchair, separated from her husband and a single mother as a part of Artemis' own tragic backstory. Looking at their villain costumes also makes it clear in Sportsmaster's case that it is designed as a live action model of his Young Justice costume, while Tigris's costume is based on her daughter's original modern comic book costume because look what her original costume is! Imagine if she was wearing that instead! And that's actually all fan service there is. Discounting this shot of Pat in his robot costume standing behind Stargirl and her Infinity Inc. team. It was used in the CW's Crisis on Infinite Earth special in marking the show to be separate from the Arrowverse shows and set in its own separate Earth, similar to Titans, Doom Patrol, and Swamp Thing as non CW shows, but also as DC shows happening parallel to them. That was a lot to talk about. Returning back to how I opened this video, I'm now openly asking those of you who have watched this video this far to like, comment, share, and subscribe, or at the very least, leave a comment to the video to help it get recognized in the YouTube algorithm and so suggested to more people. My feud with the bigger YouTuber whose videos I use to fish viewers by leaving plea responses in the comment sections has not been a fun experience to go through in the long run because of how it made me look and because getting caught doing it doesn't what getting caught doing anything dishonorable does. So please do not make me fall down to that level anymore. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and may your heart be your guiding key.